Hello, my name's Stephanie Cottle. A few years ago, I was given the opportunity to work with In Certain Places. In Certain Places is a curatorial partnership based at the University of Central Lancashire, Preston. Since 2003, they have worked with artists to question, test, and shape places throughout the city. At the beginning of my studies with In Certain Places, I was interested in looking at how public transport, which creates a specific set of experiences for its users, is a special type of public space. Whilst conducting my research, I've come across a variety of texts that inspect how women's experiences of public spaces differ somewhat to those of other groups. As it's International Women's Day, I thought creating a short video would be a good way of sharing some of the research that I've come across with yourselves. It's important for me to say at the beginning of this recording that what I'll discuss is the briefest glimpse into the subject matters that I've chosen. Also, there are many experiences, particularly of those of other marginalised groups, such as disabled people, people of colour, gender and sexual minorities, that I won't get a chance to mention today. Throughout the video, I'll share some links to reading resources that I've used. I'll also share my contact details. I'd love it if you felt that you could share your own thoughts and resources with me, and let's keep the conversation going. The more we think about how our spaces might not be working in our best interest, the more chance we'll have of understanding what we want and need from our spaces in the future. So I'm not sand grown. I came to Blackpool around 8 years ago. On the evening that I moved into the shared house on Park Road, I headed out to explore the town centre. After a full day of shifting boxes, I was excited to meet my new neighbour, the sea. Unlike Virginia Woolf in her beautiful essay about urban exploration called Street Haunting, I hadn't the flimsy excuse of needing to buy a pencil to get away from the overwhelming amounts of unpacked bric-a-brac. That night, I enjoyed the town centre and I walked the streets that I'd never encountered as a tourist. The following day, armed with questions about this place or that, I asked my colleagues at work about some areas that I'd seen. At the time, I'd worked in a retail shop. The team consisted of 5 men and myself. I remember each of them warning me that Blackpool at night time could be a dangerous place and not to walk alone again. Although it was warming to hear my new teammates concerned about my welfare, I was disappointed. I'd heard this about every place that I've ever lived in or visited. Wigan, Leeds, Manchester, Dewsbury, Halifax, Liverpool, leafy suburbs, built-up areas, country roads, everywhere. Our places don't seem to be hospitable to women. However, women would be extremely limited in what they were able to achieve if we weren't willing to step outside into the world. When women do step into the world, they're not only faced with the threat of street harassment and violence, but also a frustrating amount of hurdles to overcome daily. Being interviewed in the publication Metropolis, Leslie Kern, author of the book Feminist City, stated, "Cities haven't really reflected the ways in which women continue to be responsible for juggling domestic, uncared pay responsibilities as well as paid work. That makes their urban lives and the ways that they move through the towns and cities a lot more complicated." In 2020, I wrote a piece about public transport for Blackpool Social Club after reading texts like Invisible Women. I was interested to learn from this book that women, who often make up a majority of public transport users, have travel patterns that generally tend to be more complex than those of men. In many cases, women take on domestic responsibilities like caring for children, running household errands, and maintaining community ties. Women in dual worker families are also twice as likely as men to drop off or pick up children on the commute to work. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated some of those underlying issues. At the time I wrote the article, I spoke with Regina. Regina is a Blackpool resident and a key worker who assists individuals living with mental health conditions. She's also a fantastic mother and a great friend. She uses the bus to get to work, pick up her children, and do her grocery shopping. We were discussing her use of public transportation, and she stated that during the pandemic, she had waited for a bus for up to an hour. If it had turned up, sometimes only 12 people were only allowed on. When she was picking the kids up from school, she was delayed several times and often ended up using taxis, which is obviously a drain on the finances. Prior to COVID-19, transport had long been the bugbear of us northerners. Lindsay Hansley, writing for The Guardian, stated that to live outside London and not drive a car is an exercise in resilience and stoicism. Public transport should give women the potential to make opportunities for employment, healthcare resources, and education accessible. Sadly, if public transport systems aren't operating smoothly, this directly impedes the life of women. So, just in the task of getting from A to B, we're already establishing how women might be spending more time in public spaces and experiencing inconveniences along the way. The longer you're out of the house, the more chances you have of nature calling. Another issue COVID-19 kindly brought to our attention by closing the facilities completely is the lack of public toilets there are in our urban environments. This again is a particular pain to women. Unlike our male counterparts, who can be known to find a private corner down a quiet street in a tight spot, women often find themselves power walking throughout the streets in search of a cubicle of one's own. When women do find a public toilet, there's often a lengthy queue. In her book, No Place to Go, Leslie Lowe writes, "We don't make serious moves to fix the long lines of cross-legged women because it means acknowledging that the built environment invisibly works better for men. Do you know why there are so many long lines for women's bathrooms? Because in a typical bathroom installation with equal floor space, men might have 2 stalls and 4 urinals. Women might have space for only 3 stalls. That's double the provisions for men." Discussing the issues such as this in Feminist City, Leslie Kern writes that there is a danger of reinforcing already existing gender norms and roles. However, inspecting these issues does have the potential to pave the way for a more inclusive urban space for everybody. The 2 examples we've just discussed were to me an aspect of life, something that I'd known forever. I would always hop on and off buses with my mum as she went to my nan's, to town, to the university, to the shop, picking up tea, and finally home. I've also always been grumbled at by my partner for taking too long in the Hounds Hill public toilets. Also, like many young girls, after being asked for my phone number by an older man on my way home from school, I've always been told to stick to main roads to get home safely. This was despite the shortest route home being through the air pollution-free space of my beautiful local park. Women should be able to enjoy their towns and cities without embarrassment, inconvenience, or fear. The best way of working towards a reality like this is when we talk about the issues that we can face, including women's experiences of public space can help inform urban planning, and it's important to bring concerns to the forefront. In Blackpool, creative individuals are claiming space to highlight some of the experiences that we're facing in our hometown. Since opening, the Old Electric has hosted participatory sessions that encourage individuals to consider public space. Projects like Claire Walmsley Griffiths' Photosensitive saw a group of women come together to occupy and photograph public spaces at different times of day. In particular, it was exciting to access the town at night. Skate Like a Girl, or SLAG for short, is a skate collective connecting marginalised individuals through skateboarding. Skateboarding, once considered a boys' activity, has in recent years seen a huge surge in the number of women taking part in the sport. This enables women to access some spaces that may one time have been intimidating to occupy. SLAG's aim is to enable easy access to skateboarding for everybody and empower people to do so. In 2021, Hive Arts brought Blackpool's public spaces F-Stop. F-Stop was an open call commission for photographers who identify as female and were living in the FY postcodes. This exhibition, which displayed more than 20 images at tram stops, brought forward a large and diverse collection of work. Antisocial's We're So Dumb project came about as a response to the events of March 2021 and the disappearance and murder of Sarah Everard. Antonia Charlesworth Stack wrote an opinion piece about street harassment locally. This included a call out for women living on the Fylde coast to contribute their experiences of street harassment. The textile group, Knitters with Attitude, then decided that they wanted to do something to highlight the issues. There was such a variety and diversity of stories affecting women of all ages, they felt that it was really important that these should be marked. Members of the group created works of art that could be strategically placed in public spaces to highlight the harassment and threats that women are facing every day. The map is still ongoing and can be found on the link in the slides. The map aims to provide a way for women to share their experiences, anonymously or not. This is a proven empowerment tool. We've seen successes of movements such as Me Too and everyday sexism. The map also aims to demonstrate to victims that they're not alone in their experiences and they have valid complaints. This may help give women the confidence to report incidents like street harassment to authorities and help build a picture of the extent of the problems in Blackpool. By mapping the experiences, we might be able to identify hotspots, patterns of harassment, and repeat offenders. The slides I've shown to you today include images from Blackpool by photographers Claire Walmsley Griffiths, Dawn Mander and Kate Yates. These are 3 excellent examples of female artists who are inspecting the urban environment of Blackpool throughout their work. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy that brief talk, and happy International Women's Day 2022.